qed nagħmlu ftit xhur wara l-elezzjoni tal-Parlament Ewropew li kellna f'Ġunju. Ħafna minn kienu attendew il-events li kellna qabel l-elezzjoni li kienu jissejħu x'għamilt fl-aħħar 5 snin. Fihom konna ġibna l-MEPs li kellna u dawn spjegaw dak li għamlu fix-xogħol tagħhom fil-5 snin ta' qabel. Fl-istess żmien, partners tagħna Chamber of Commerce u l-ġef kienu qed jagħmlu wkoll dibattiti bejn il-kandidati. Issa, votajna kien hemm riżultat pożittiv, kien riżultat sodisfaċenti, għaliex għall-ewwel darba f'20 sena il-numru ta' votanti tela, però ma nistgħux ngħidu illi issa kuntenti u daqshekk naturalment u rridu inkomplu bix-xogħol tagħna. Fl-aħħar xhur il-uffiċċju tagħna biżi b'affarijiet differenti, konna preżenti fil-Science in the City, konna preżenti fil-Freshers Week, konna wkoll preżenti ftaħna fil-Notte Bianca u f'dawk l-avvenimenti konna qed nispjegaw x'jagħmel il-Parlament Ewropew. Ħdimna wkoll ħafna fuq il-Euroskola u fuq l-EPAS li huma l-programmi taż-żgħażagħ tal-Parlament Ewropew qed nara nħobb pjaċir illum li hawn numru ta' żgħażagħ li huma parteċipanti f'dawk il-programmi. Ħdimna wkoll mal-ġurnalisti biex inkopru erba' sessjonijiet plenarji sa issa fi Strasburgu. L-ewwel waħda il-plenarja ta' Lulju kienet dik li nsejħula il-Constitutive Session, is-sessjoni tal-Parlament Ewropew. Hija importanti ħafna il-membri jażlu il-kumitati li ħajkunu qed jaħdmu fihom. Allura dik hija sessjoni importanti ħafna u llum l-MP se jkunu qed jispjegaw ix-xogħol li ħajkunu qed iwettqu wkoll għalfejn jażlu dawk il-kumitati. Dik il-Constitutive Session waslet ukoll biex reġa' kellna għal darba oħra President tal-Parlament Ewropew Maltija. U naħseb dan huwa wieħed mill-aqwa eżempji li wieħed jista' jagħmel matters li wieħed jivvota fl-elezzjonijiet. U juri wkoll illi bħala MEPs Maltin għandhom il-kapaċità illi jaslu f'pożizzjonijiet tant importanti. Iżjed importanti mill-President hija impossibbli. U l-President illum għandi pjaċir nilqaħħa magħna. U ta' pjaċir Roberto dejjem ikollha programmi biżi ħafna, però sabet il-ħin biex tkun magħna llum u sejra tiftaħ dan l-avveniment. Mela nħalli fidej il-President tagħna u nitkellmu iktar tard. Grazzi.
Thank ħafna, Mario, bonġur lil kulħadd, eżis kollegi membri tal-Parlament Ewropew, eżis ħbieb, sinjuri, l-odwa tajba u grazzi ħafna lill-EPLO u lil kull min kien involut biex jorganizza l-attivitajiet ta' qabel l-elezzjoni. U din l-attività fejn nippruvaw naħseb nintu stock take u naħseb nippreparaw din il-leġislatura. Għandna ħafna x'nagħmlu, għadna nirrankaw, imma f'dawn ix-xhur li għaddew diġà għamilna xogħol mhux ħażin, għaddew kważi 150 ġurnata minn mindu l-poplu Malti Wawċi vota fit-8 ta' Ġunju u biżna diġà il-100 ġurnata minn mindu bdejna l-10 il-leġislatura minn mindu ġejna u ikkostitwejna l-komitati kif qed nippreparaw il-ġimgħa d-dieħla biex ikollna l-hearings tal-kummissarji designate. Mela aħna ninsabu f'sena li fiha qed isiru elezzjonijiet madwar l-erbat irkejjen tad-dinja. Ġifieri fil-fatt 2024 hija magħrufa bħala s-sena fejn qatt ma kien hawn daqshekk elezzjonijiet. Ċelebrazzjoni wkoll ta' dan li aħna nieħdu fil-Parlament Ewropew bikburija l-islogan demokrazija fl-azzjoni għaliex demokrazija m'għandix tkun sempliċement proċess akademiku, għalhekk ridna aħna li jkollna l-kelma azzjoni f'dak li nagħmlu kemm qabel elezzjoni kif ukoll wara. Rridu li kulħadd ikun involut u iktar importanti minn hekk li kulħadd iħossu involut għaliex id-demokrazija tkun aktar ħajja meta jkun hemm l-ikbar ammont ta' persuni possibbli li jkunu involuti fil-proċess għaliex jekk dan ma jkunx il-każ, u nista' ngħidilkom li hemm ħafna pajjiżi fejn din tinħass iżjed minn hawn, inkunu f'riskju li nitilfu ġenerazzjoni sħiħa dawk li qatt ma votaw qabel, li jivvotaw għall-ewwel darba, li jkollhom il-possibilità li jivvotaw għall-ewwel darba u faċilment jistgħu jaqgħu tista' tgħid għall-komfort fals li toffri l-politika populista jew li jażlu li ma jmorrux jivvotaw għaliex ikun tilfu kull sens ta' fiduċja fil-politiċi. Qatt biex intikom ftit ta' esperjenza personali l-biraħ lura wkoll kelli l-opportunità li nżur żewġ skejjel f'Malta u tqajt ma' mijiet ta' studenti u prova ma nħallihomx biss li jisaqsuni mistoqsijiet li jkunu diġà preparati bit-teachers, allura ngħidlhom mela intkom tistgħu tistaqsuni li tridu. Soltu jkun hemm ftit hesitation imma dawn il-jumejn vera ħadmet u bdejt billi għattilhom isma' jiena qiegħda hawnhekk biex nipprova nikkonvinċikom li l-kelma politika mhix kelma ħażina, li biex tkun fil-politika inti qed tagħti servizz b'responsabilità lejn min ikun tak il-fiduċja. U allura staqsejthom mela min minnkom dawn kellhom 14-15. Min minnkom jkun joħroġ għall-elezzjoni. Insomma l-ewwel ikollhom wieħed jew tnejn, insomma, l-ewwel bil-bidu jkun hemm forsi tlieta, ikunu lesti fl-ewwel fil-lira. U mbagħad lejn l-aħħar jekk terġa' tistaqsi mistoqsija jollu iżjed idejhom. Għaliex elezzjoni mhux biss għax inti tpoġġi ruħek għad-dispożizzjoni ta' min ħajvotalek f'elezzjoni politika, ma anke li inti tagħżel kawża li inti tixtieq timbotta, tibbenefaq tikkontesta anke tiegħek u tasal biex isservi l-komunitajiet tiegħek u ta' pajjiżna. Mbagħad saqsejthom u intkom minn fejn taraw l-aħbarijiet. Min minnkom jara television ftit olla vedea. Fejn mill-mistoqsijiet u risposti li mbagħad waslu, ngħid li ħafna minn dak li jaraw huwa jew fuq TikTok jew fuq YouTube. Kultant biex ma ngħid spiss dawn huma mezzi soċjali, se ngħidha ġifieri għax it-tfal tiegħi jagħmlu eżattament l-istess ħaġa, imma li jippreżentaw narrattiva li ħafna drabi toffrilhom illużjoni. U ħallejthom b'messaġġ li għalkemm nafu li ħajqattaw ħafna ħin fuq dawn il-medji soċjali, il-medji soċjali huma jkunu jistgħu almenu at the back of their heads jkunu jafu li mhux kollox minn dak li jaraw hija l-verità. U fl-aħħar mill-aħħar li aħna mbagħad ir-responsabilità tagħna bħala politiċi li ġejna eletti huwa li ma niddependux biss fuq il-mezzi soċjali biex iwasslu l-messaġġ tagħna. Jiġifieri li nħabtu l-bibien, nagħmlu attivitajiet bħal dawn, nisimgħu lil ħaddiema l-familji n-nies tan-negozju, l-karbit tagħhom li verament inti tkun tista' tgħid li l-komunikazzjoni hija waħda two-way u hija waħda two-way effettiva. Se nħarsu lura lejn ir-riżultati tal-elezzjonijiet ta' Ġunju li għaddew fl-Ewropa kollha, dawn taw stampa nista' ngħidula less ċara tal-aktar ħaġa li tinsab fil-quċċata tal-imħuħ minn Marju. Ukoll tinkludi l-mantivazzjoni, ġifieri numri u data u raġunijiet għalfejn iċ-ċittadini marru jivvotaw il-Greċja, Spanja, l-Iżvezja, il-Polonja kienet ukoll simili għal raġuni għalfejn il-Maltin u l-Awċin jivvotaw. Li ngawdu ħajjitna mod, li ngħixu f'ambjent ekonomiku, soċjali, edukattiv u fiżiku aħjar u li overall intejbu dik it-tama l-Ewropa ta' twassallek biex inti jkollok ħajja aħjar. U allura nistoqsina qudiemna bħala politiċi aħna kif nistgħu nħadmu l-mudell ekonomiku tagħna biex ikun sostenibbli, biex ikun jista' jippermetti tkabbir u li fuq kollox li jgħin lin-nies. U fuq din jeħtieġ minn soluzzjonijiet ta' malajr li nħarsu minnhom għallum jew minnhom għal-għada imma li jkollna pjan fit-tul kemm għal pajjiżna kif ukoll l-Unjoni Ewropea kollha rridu naraw li l-Ewropa tkun iżjed kompetittiva u f'dinja li qed tinbidel b'rata maġla meta ngħid li rridu nkunu kompetittivi l-prosperità ekonomika u l-ħolqien ta' opportunitajiet ġodda għan-nies iridu jimxu id fit. Hawnhekk it-tisħiħ fil-kompetittività meta naħarsu lejha ngħidu iżjed xogħol, imma xogħol dinjitus, iżjed sigurtà u iżjed ugwaljanza. Biex naħseb aħna kollha rridu li uliedna jkollhom kontinent li joffri tama u opportunitajiet meta mqabbel mal-inċertezza u l-istaġnar li qed nara fl-Ewropa llum. Niltaqgħu wkoll ma' żgħażagħ li minkejja l-entużjażmu li jġibu magħhom u l-idejat innovattivi li jkollhom iħabtu wiċċhom ma' numru interminabbli ta' sfidi. Fosthom kapital biex jibdew, biex ipoġġu u jagħmlu l-idejat tagħhom f'realtà u hawnhekk hawn differenza kbira bejn pajjiżi oħra u għadna ħafna x'nagħmlu Malta. Il-martirju burokratiku li inti minn meta jkollok idea biex twassal biex tibda forsi mhux biex twassal għall-frott, biex tibda forsi. Li ssib nies oħra li għandhom il-ħiliet meħtieġa li jistgħu jgħinuk. Li inti qatt ma pajjiżi oħra. Konvinti il-gżejjer allura l-mistoqsija kif ser jinnexxielna nimmassimizzaw dan il-potenzjal u nkunu fuq quddiem nett. Jiena nemmen li ma rridux nieqfu mal-viżjoni li għandu jkollna iżda jeħtieġ li jkollna pjan u pjan serju, direzzjoni strateġika, oġġettivi u miri ċari. U realtà marrida ġbir li jkun gap bejn dak li xi ħadd li jmur jivvota f'dikinhar tal-elezzjoni minn dak Liberja elett minnhom. Ifisser li jekk inħarsu ta' madwarna u lejn pajjiżna għandna bżonn investimenti infrastrutturali fit-diġitali u teknoloġiċi, rridu nimxu lil hinn mir-retorika biex jitwettqu l-affarijiet. Jiġifieri meta aħna jkollna u bir-raġun aħna nilqgħu fondi Ewropej, proġetti li jaslu hawnhekk li jiġu mħabbra, rridu narawhom li jiġu konklużi, li nħossuhom u li jħosshom kulħadd. U allura pjan bħal dan irid jinkorpora kull settur biex jiżgura il-bidla strutturali fit-tul li Malta huwa għawdex għandhom bżonn. Ġifieri żgħażagħ, il-ħaddiema, self-employed, l-istudenti, l-industrija, l-intraprendituri li għandhom il-koll iħossuhom parti mit-trasformazzjoni li neħtieġu. Bieraħ f'Malta kien hawn u għadha hawnhekk il-President tal-Kummissjoni tas-Sajd Malta u ltaqgħet mas-sajjieda Maltin. U kienet waħda mill-ewwel laqgħat li hija kellha u jiena kont iltqajt magħha ftit ta' xhur ilu għadtilha jiena nixtieq li inti bħala President ġdid tal-Kummissjoni tas-Sajd nixtieqek tiltaqa' mas-sajjieda Maltin għax nassigurak li l-ebda President tal-Kummissjoni tal-Parlament Ewropew qatt tiltaqa' mas-sajjieda Maltin. U U l-laqa saret, kienet waħda pożittiva ħafna, u il-messaġġ li jiena ħadd minn dik il-laqa kienet li għalin għax ħadd semgħana. Billi aħna meta insiru nafu bir-regolamenti tal-Ewropa ma nisimgħuhomx meta jiġu votati, nisimgħu meta jiġu preżentati. L-pożizzjoni ta' Malta u ta' għawdex speċifika, partikolari, individwali, tinħass mill-ewwel. Kella jkun tard wisq. Kienu Thomas 2 minn 6, 6 minn 720. Mhux se jirnexxielna waħedna nbidlu deċiżjoni. Imma jekk aħna ninaqdu ma' pajjiżi bħal tagħna fil-Mediterran, mhux biss fil-Mediterran, fejn setturi bħal dak li għadni kif semmejt qed iħossuhom taħt pressjoni partikolari, kompetizzjoni sproporzjonata ma' kontinenti oħrajn. Importazzjoni li inti ma jistax ikollok kontroll fuq u meta mqabbel ma' l-obbligi li aħna nagħmlu fuq li jiġi mill-Ewropa. Dawn kollha affarijiet li jiġu għandna u li aħna nistgħu insolvu mill-livell Ewropew. U hawnhekk il-messaġġ tiegħi li membru tal-Parlament Ewropew issa 11-il sena. Jekk hemm xi ħaġa li tallimt huwa li għandna nitkellmu kollha flimkien. Li jekk naraw li hemm problema nitkellmu fil-bidu. Ma nħallux sakemm tiġi kampanja elettorali biex ngħidu int m'għamilx hekk u int m'għamilx hekk. Jekk tallimna xi ħaġa hija din. U tallimniha kemm bis-suċċessi. Kif ukoll fejn ma kienx hemm suċċessi jew fejn konna u stajna nagħmlu aħjar. Għaliex l-istorja isma' jiena meta rrid nispiċċa ta' għajdi Mario, għabda kellha jiena ħanibqa' ngħid. Okej. Ja ora Mili kif bħala xi għandhom il-qasma. Il-nodu. Il-Mario li nafu ħafna ta' konna skola fl-imkien università so għandna tip ta' relazzjoni. Mela l-istorja tal-Unjoni Ewropea uritna li u naħseb għalmitna li meta il-popli inaqdu wara deċenni ta' gwerer sabu li jistgħu jkunu ktar b'saħħithom. B'saħħithom mhux biss politikament, imma b'saħħithom ukoll ekonomikament. U allura fuq kollox aħna għandna inħarsu lejn il-mudell ekonomiku tagħna. Jiġifieri jekk huwa u again mhux aħna biss. Jekk il-mudell ekonomiku tagħna huwa bbażat fuq l-intrapriżi żaru medji, allura l-fokus ekonomiku tagħna għandu jkun fuq hekk. Id-definizzjoni ta' intrapriża żaru medja x'inhi? Meta mqabbel ma' SME Ġermaniża, SME Maltija hija ħafna żgħar. Imma l-bracket ta' dak li naraw xi kultant ma tapplikax għal kumpaniji li għandna l-medja kważi kollha il-fuq minn 90% tal-kumpaniji Maltin huma iżgħar mill-average li ssib fl-Unjoni Ewropea. Meta nitkellmu fuq l-SMEs u hawnhekk verament nixtieq nirringrazzja lill-assoċjazzjonijiet li jirrappreżentaw u jagħmlu xogħol siwi ħafna. Jekk għandna nħarsu lejhom bħala sinsla tal-mudell ekonomiku Ewropew, inkluż kif għadni kif għad mod partikolari f'pajjiżna, irridu kompletament imbidlu il-mod kif aħna nilleġislaw dwarhom u li nilleġislaw għalihom. Ara bħallum ġimgħa, llum il-ħamis jew l-erba'. Bħallum ġimgħa hemm l-elezzjonijiet fl-Istati Uniti. F'sitwazzjoni fejn ma nafux l-eżitu ta' dik l-elezzjoni se jkun. Demokrazija in action, we don't know. Imma irrispettivament minn min jirbaħ din l-elezzjoni, l-għada ħajkonna amministrazzjoni ġdida, president ġdid. U aħna bħala Ewropa jekk inħarsu lura lejn u sa ngħid l-aħħar 4 snin tul din l-amministrazzjoni ma tul l-aħħar 8 snin. Aħna dejjem irreaġixxejna meta l-Amerika għamlet xi ħaġa. Stennejna l-Amerika tiġi salvana jekk ikun hemm gwerra fil-viċin. Meta jkun hemm preżentazzjoni ta' liġi li hija ppreżentata bħala liġi ambjentali, finalment kienet liġi biex tipproteġi l-industrija Amerikani. U li aħna konna tard wisq biex nirrispondu għaliha. Jiġifieri bħallum ġimgħa meta nqumu naraw ir-riżultat, ser nkunu li nkunu pożizzjoni. Nkunu lesti biex nirreaġixxu b'mod ekonomiku. il-businesses ekonomiċi, il-businesses Ewropej qed jitkarbulna biex inkunu preparati. Mhux nistennew, mhux inħossnuna squeezed bejn iċ-Ċina u mbagħad l-Indja u naħsbu li dak kollu li ħajsir fl-Amerika ħajjgħinilna. Di ma taħdimx hekk, li nkunu ħafna iżjed preparati. U aħna jista' bl-esperjenza tagħna, bl-expertise tagħna bħala Maltin ngħinu għaliex is-sħubija ta' pajjiżna fl-Unjoni Ewropea għandu konnessjoni kemm ma' kontinent ta' possibilitajiet bla tarf fejn Malta jista' jkollha iżjed sissien li joffru stabilità li nkunu prevedibbli fis-sens li ma jkunx hemm skossi jew deċiżjonijiet politiċi bla sens u sissien li jagħmlu lil pajjiż attrajenti għal min irid jinvesti fih. U f'dan kollu rridu nkunu xejn inqas mill-aqwa. Meta nitkellmu dwar l-eċċellenza, nkunu serji dwar x'iridu ngħidu biha. Allura l-imprenditori lokali għandhom ikunu jiffokaw fuq il-ħolqien tal-aqwa prodotti u din narawha, aħna vera gburin, l-aqwa servizzi u l-aqwa idejat. Biex nagħlaq li jkollhom fiduċja fil-liġijiet, fis-sistemi legali ta' pajjiżna biex ikollhom isserħan il-moħħ li jippjanaw li joħolqu u jwettqu t-tagħmiet u għalhekk biex nagħmlu l-bidliet meħtieġa billi nistabilixxu regoli ċari, konsistenti, ma nibżawx mir-riformi, li jkun post pajjiżna fejn in-nies iridu jgħixu, jridu jaħdmu, jinvestu kif għandu jkun. U aħna mill-lat ta' Parlament Ewropew hawnhekk ningħaqad ma' sħabi kollha li ninvestu fin-nies tagħna li jkollna tiġdid kontinwu tal-ħiliet tagħna. Jekk inħarsu lejn is-sistema edukattiva tagħna, kemm hi tajba ma kemm tista' tkun aħjar. Is-sistemi huma differenti ta' meta l-ġenituri tagħna marru l-iskola jew meta aħna morna l-iskola. Jiġifieri inti jkollok karriera waħda. Mentri aħna tinħarsu lejn dinja fejn it-tfal tagħna jkunu jridu jistudjaw, jaħdmu, bidlu x-xogħol, jerġgħu jistudjaw, jaħdmu, jkomplu jaħdmu u jitalmu kif imorru f'soċjetà li tgħinhom. Hawnhekk nemmen li vera għandna fejn nimirħu, jiġifieri li niżviluppaw ħiliet ġodda li inti tista' tingħata l-possibilità li kull fejn tkun fl-Ewropa tista' tuża dak li tallimt hawnhekk biex tbiddel, biex ittik il-flessibilità. U naħseb kollha kemm aħna jekk tixtieq li xi ħaġa toħroġ minn dawn il-laqgħat u diskussjonijiet li ħajkollna llum huwa li l-kol kemm aħna inħossu r-responsabilità li aħna għandna li ngħatajna kemm fir-ruoli differenti kollha li għandna, kif ukoll fir-ruoli futuri li intkom għandkom f'moħħkom li tistgħu tagħmlu. Li nibnu futur fejn ħadd ma jibqa' lura. Imma millum mhux nistennew sakemm ikollna l-possibilità jew ngħidu nipposponu għal dejjem. Futur fejn l-Ewropa tkun protagonista, fejn l-Ewropa tkun leader u fejn Malta u Għawdex ikunu dejjem fuq quddiem-nett ta' din it-trasformazzjoni. Grazzi.
Grazzi, Signora Presidenta, tal-li kont magħna u tal-diskursata li tatna li naħseb vera l-ambjent għal din il-laqgħa tagħna kollha u kuljum. Issa ħana qlibna naqra bl-Ingliż għaliex kif konna fżajna li kien irreġistra din il-panel biex nirrispettaw il-bilanċ ħajna panel bl-Ingliż li jmiss wara nqilbu bil-Malti għandna fuq il-deputati Ewropej magħna. Before we move on to the next panel, I would like first to invite other organizations who have supported us immensely in the organization of today's encounter. So we have Europe Direct Core platform, and we have Junior Chamber International Malta. So I would like first to invite Dr. Roberta Lebre to tell us a few words about what CORE does. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I'll just be brief because I'm sure you're all very eager to kick off with the first panel, and we're also very keen to hear what our youths have to share with us today. But just a couple of words about CORE. So, first of all, what is CORE Platform? CORE is an NGO. It was set up some years ago by our founder, Helga Lul, who's here with us today. Hi, Helga, and everyone. And it was set up under the patronage of Her Excellency Mary Louise Collier of Grec. And the aim of CORE is to promote, to debate, to raise awareness about, and to disseminate the concepts of corporate citizenship and corporate social responsibility. Why? Because we truly believe that companies, SMEs, entrepreneurs can really have a positive impact on society. So CORE wanted to create a space where these enterprises could be supported and guided to have this positive impact. Now, as of a few years ago, CORE has been also acting as a Europe Direct Centre. And why did it decide to embark on this initiative? Because, of course, the priorities of the European Union are actually aligned with the priorities of CORE. So if we look at what the European Union is promoting, it is promoting sustainability, it is promoting inclusion, so values and principles that CORE is very much aligned with. And we have in fact been hosting this Europe Direct Centre since the year 2021. And in particular, we're targeting SMEs and entrepreneurs. We actively engage with communities, we organize events, workshops, and information sessions because we want to make EU policies accessible and relatable. Very often people don't understand these policies, so we want to be the link between European Union and SMEs for them to understand how they can tap into the opportunities that are available to them. So looking to the future, our work as communicators, we believe it's more vital than ever, especially in the light of the EU's ongoing efforts to build a more inclusive and sustainable society. So we're committed to transparency, to active engagement, and we understand that trust is built through open dialogue and want to be transparent as well about the successes but also the challenges. We want to create spaces where we can discuss all these different aspects. Finally, we will continue to focus on local partnerships just as we're doing today, so we believe a lot in the power of working together, and we will continue working to speak to citizens in a language that they can understand and in a way that resonates with their lived experiences. So that's it in a nutshell about CORE Platform, and I now welcome my colleague to start the panel discussion. Thank you.
I now invite David Bartolo on behalf of Junior Chamber International, Malta, to give us a little bit of an explanation of what you do.
Good morning, everyone. I'm David Bartolo, the newly appointed Director of Events for JCI Malta. Basically, in a nutshell, JCI Malta it's a part of an international organization. It's a worldwide organization where it promotes youth and encourages youth to engage in leadership positions, project management, and organize exchange with other JCI international organizations to gain experience from other members, gain insights, connections to either your personal project that you want to develop or from your professional aspects that you want to see grow within yourself or within your organization. We do a lot of things where we promote such activities. We encourage our members to participate in the organization of the events that we organize, so that gaining the necessary skills that also throughout this year we are going to also trying to promote also the benefits of gaining also the aspects of mental health within leadership, and we're going to try also to promote events that both strengthen the leadership positions and also the benefits of mental health awareness for the individual. That is basically a nutshell of what JCI do, and thank you all again for this opportunity to work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Well, we will now move on to our first panel. I will introduce the panelists and you can start making your way up. We also have some arrangements in the meantime as well. But just as a reminder, so this is going to be a reverse panel. So we're going to have 5 young people representing also different organizations. And the idea is that we hear from them. So we hear from you. What do you feel about politics, about participation? What doesn't. And we have our MEPs, our president as well here, president today, who will be listening to you as well, and at the end to hear their reactions. One final word, especially in particular as well to the president and the MEPs, you will find that we have left this booklet which is called Youth Voices Region. This has been a project that has been funded as well by the European Parliament pre-elections. We have as well Europe Direct Center from GoTo, who have worked on this project, and it brings together basically what young people think about a number of issues which are problematic for them. Our panel today will also be referring to this youth on behalf of GoTo, Europe Direct Center. Thank you, and with that I will start inviting, so first our moderator. So we have Ms. Candy Bonello representing Europe Direct Core Platform. Could you please take a seat? And then we'll have as well the other panelists. I will be moving out so that then you can also make more space as well also for. So we have Marilyn Formosa, David Bartolo, Michael Gutt, Isaac Rizzo, and Kyle. Thank you. To say. Thank you.
Hello, good morning everyone. Thank you for being here with us. So I would like to invite all of the panelists to briefly introduce themselves. If you'd like to start, Marilyn.
Okay, I think it's on. It's on. Okay. Hi, I am Marilyn Formosa. I am here on behalf of JCI. However, I'm just a member. I am the current Executive Secretary of the Malta Model United Nations Society, and I've been in activism since 2021 in several fields and several organizations.
Hi, my name is Kyle Bella. I am here on behalf of ESO, which is the European Studies Organization. I am currently the academic officer for the European Studies Organization. Currently studying European Studies, obviously with international relations.
Hello everyone, I'm David Bartolo. I'm an engineer with the government, but apart from that, I'm representing JCI. I'm the director of events for JCI, but also I'm part of two other organizations that promotes personal development and mental health, which are Walk and Talk and Jonas. And in a nutshell, that's basically what I do.
Hi, I'm Michael Gatt. I'm a law student. I'm the president of Jeff Malta currently, Young European Federalists Malta. I'm the Secretary General of the Malta Model United Nations Society, and I'm currently the EU student senior ambassador at the University of Malta as well.
Hello everyone, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm Isaac Rizzo, I'm 19 years old, I'm a third year history student at the University of Malta. I'm the Vice President and International Officer of Jeff Malta and also the Vice President of the Malta Model United Nations Society.
So, thank you all of you for your introductions. My first question is this. So how did you feel about the recent European Parliament elections when they were happening? And has your perspective changed since then? And if so, how?
Okay, let me start. In the beginning, I was obviously very hopeful, and I still remain to be hopeful. It hasn't changed at all. I felt like this year there was much more awareness on the European elections and much more activities made for youth to actually know what's going on and what's going to happen and what the voting process is and what the election is going to do. Since the election ended, obviously we had great candidates appointed, and we saw, I think, a change in youth in terms of they wanted to make their voice heard more than usual. Obviously the voting statistics increased, and there was a voice saying that we need change and we need voices to be heard from all aspects. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Well, I think Marilyn said most of what I was going to say, but I feel like for youth, especially myself, I thought that there was more involvement in these last European elections. Voter turnout in Malta especially was quite high compared to Europe as well. Over 70% people voted, and I think most youths voted as well, and first-time voters mostly voted. I feel like that obviously not all votes, not all people will be satisfied as always, but personally I had high hopes, as Marilyn said, and since then those hopes have been justified and met myself.
Continue with the same thing that my colleagues said. I concur with what they said because I think that from the last election, people seem that they want some kind of change of direction, how politics are made. In my line of field as an engineer with the government, I meet with a lot of people from the industry and also from the general public, and they from the way they talk to me, they show that they wanted a change, how things might run and how things are presented, and also from my voluntary organizations with mental health. It shows that people wanted a change because some policies are affecting them directly. So from the last election, I think it was clear that people wanted to raise their voices more than usual we see from previous elections.
On the local front, I think that the initiatives in terms of awareness were stronger and more prominent this year. As we call it, even on behalf of Jeff Malta, of course, we had one of the largest MEP debates on campus this year, which was a success. We were pleased as well to collaborate with KNZ on another MEP debate that went very well as well. There were these opportunities for the general public to even come and first-hand witness what is in store for them, what the candidates had to present for them this year as well. Locally, I'd say that there has been a reaction, obviously. The turnout was very strong as well. However, across all of Europe, there is a growing motion as well. it is a bit of a troubling movement as well to see, of course, Euroscepticism rise across all of Europe as well. With these elections, it's obviously been more prominent. We've seen this trend increase in recent years. I think this election was truly a statement as well, that Europe must be wary as well, of course, of the growing rise of movements across the EU as well. But of course, locally, there has been much done, and I hope to see so much more being done in coming years as well.
From my perspective, European parliamentary elections this year were election of change, rather, I would say. You would see many smaller political parties, even independents, gaining quite a significant number of votes. Together, I believe they would amount to more than 30,000. And also, as has been mentioned previously, the fact that voter turnout has increased, even if slightly. However, it breaks away from the trend that voter turnout continuously decreases, which is unfortunate. And so this is something that's very positive. As Michael said, as Jeff Monta, we're very proud to have helped in, maybe if I could say, mobilize youth, especially in going out to vote through the MEP elections. So youths especially can understand who they're voting for, who they can vote for also. But also, this is a trend that, if you see also statistics on a European level, it's not only the case for Malta, even countries where voter turnout is very low. For example, a particular case that comes to mind is Cyprus. Usually voter turnout is around less than 30%, and this year it has increased from 2019 by 14%. So I believe that there's a feeling that there needs to be change, and also there's I think a sentiment that we're in a time of crisis also, so that obviously will mobilize more people to go out and vote. I would hope that people would not only be more motivated to vote in times of crisis only. I would hope that obviously youths and people in general would realize the significance of voting and the importance that it carries in democracies.
Thank you for your answers. On both a personal and a generational level, as youth representatives, do you feel connected to the European Union? And if so, why?
I mean, I would say that a lot of youth, let's say from a younger age than mine, I'm 21, so let's say around 16 to 15, they wouldn't know what the EU is as much. They would take it for granted that we are so privileged to be in the EU. And then when they start exposing themselves to these awareness campaigns, they start to learn that, oh wow, okay, we're in a big picture here, and we have a lot of benefits that come with being a member state in the EU. For example, myself, I go abroad a lot on conferences, on simulations, and seeing students and youth who are both in the EU and both out of the EU, you see that students in the EU have much more benefits in terms of, for example, to travel abroad and the Schengen area and interesting stuff like that. And we see it through the Erasmus opportunities, through several initiatives which help youth in Malta and help youth all over the EU. So I would say I would feel connected for sure.
Thank you.
I myself feel connected as well on a personal level. Obviously, studying European studies as well makes me feel even more connected. I'll be repeating here, especially with programs like Erasmus and also Schengen. You can move abroad freely with my ID card as well. But still, I feel like, apart from a personal level, that out there, especially in Malta, most youth, especially, don't really know how Europe works, let alone will feel connected to it. Especially, I don't even know if they know how the Parliament works. Most people, and let alone the whole European Union. And there's still a long way to go, in my opinion, to form a European identity. I still feel like we're edging towards it, but it's still a bit of way to go. But personally, I feel connected.
Thank you.
Personally, I feel very connected because part of my work involves legislations that come from the European Parliament. Just to give you information, I foresee the conformity of measuring instruments within Malta. So there are a lot of legislations that comes through from the European Parliament and of course being transposed into Maltese legislations. but also from besides the legislations, we have part of my work a lot of connections with other institutes from EU, and we work a lot together. But I think, as like my colleague said, the general public, I think they lack a bit the awareness of what is exactly the EU and what its current role and how Malta benefits from the membership of EU. So I think much more awareness and much more awareness about the work that being done and how Malta benefits should be pushed more.
I agree in totality. I think that the awareness of what we do is definitely very important. I personally obviously do feel very connected with the EU. I have the privilege of working very often with the institutions and being involved in several organizations that do collaborate with the institutions as well. However, seeing it from another note maybe as well, seeing it from citizens who do not come from EU member states as well. We're seeing obviously Ukraine currently pushing for to enter the EU for accession as well. Asking a citizen from Ukraine how the EU can benefit them, you would understand the awareness, the level of how necessary the EU is as well, how helpful it can be as well. Something for Malta we take for granted as well, the benefits that do come with being a member state as well. Recently, of course, there were the elections in Moldova and even Georgia as well, and we can see the stark contrast between the reactions of the Georgian people to those of Moldova who were recently decided that they want to move for the EU project as well. There is a reaction, and it's very telling, I feel, of how the EU benefits us all, how the EU can be of help for every individual.
On a personal level, the short answer would be yes, I am very connected. I feel very connected to the European Union. However, I recognize that many people who, like me, for instance, maybe don't take such an interest in politics and European affairs, it can be very easy for them to feel separated from the European Union, especially as an island state such as Malta. So I really emphasize the need of having these sort of events. I believe something like this is the way forward, really, when it comes to maintaining interest also, even for people to see what's happening in the EU, how it affects them, and it's not something that's just externally there in Brussels and and life keeps on going as normal without the European Union. And I believe even this is down even to the news coverage that we get also from all news outlets. You don't see, or rarely rather, a part dedicated to what's going on in the European Parliament, for instance, or the European Union as a whole. And so this makes it much harder for people to maybe relate to the European Union or really understand what's going on. So that is something that I would personally propose that news outlets do, is dedicate a part to what's going on in the European Parliament, what's being proposed, what were the results of particular votes, for instance, on certain legislations, which again can really affect us. That's my belief on it.
Thank you, all of you. To build upon what Isaac just said, do you think that there are any steps that the EU could take to feel more connected to the EU in terms of awareness and improvement of education?
Should I maybe start, if anyone wants to go? To continue, as I said, definitely news outlets dedicating a section to the European Union. However, even events throughout the year also, I believe that you see a lot of interest in the European Union in the months preceding the European elections, and after that, or even before those few months before the election, it's almost like people forget that the European Union exists or that we're even a member state, which is obviously very much a shame, especially considering the role that the European Union plays on the world stage and even the crises that are unfolding on the world stage. So it's definitely maintaining this dialogue, this level of dialogue, even with MEPs especially. And even if I can maybe point out an example, there's a particular MEP from Cyprus. Some of you may know him. He was an influencer, however he got elected on behalf of Cyprus. His name is Fidias. And at first, at least in my first impression, was that this guy's a comedian, sort of, that just ran for the European Parliament elections as a joke. However, he began to launch a number of Instagram Reels and even TikToks, rather short videos on what goes on in the European Parliament, even a day in the life of what his work consists of, what's going on right now in the European Parliament. He even covered the election in Georgia, as he was even a part of an observer in the election. And even, for example, going into stuff of how much MEP, for example, what certain the money that goes into their pocket or that needs to be dedicated to certain, for example, initiatives, other than that. And it helps you understand better what the role of an MEP consists of, what goes on in the European Parliament, the work that goes on. Again, because as of yet, many youths especially feel that the European Union is still very much external, even 20 years into being a member of the European Union.
To build on what Isaac mentioned, I think Phidias is a very good example in that he has very relatable content, especially for the younger generation. Awareness, to spread awareness, that is one of the key movements as well. That the content is not something that it looks complicated in words, a lot of words, difficult words, big words that the younger generation may not be familiar with, especially because they're studying a completely different environment as well. So definitely keeping up with the generations is something that's very important. Awareness programs from the end of the EU is very important, obviously, so that the EU can spread their message as well. I think that this not only comes from the EU. Again, I will refer to Jeff Malta. We have our initiative called Europe at School, in which we give educational lessons about how the EU functions, the workings of the EU institutions to various different schools. We send our civic education officers to deliver messages on how the EU works, makes it relatable, involve a couple of games for youths as well, get them going, provide this understanding, bridging the gap between this vague EU, this concept that is alien to them still, even 20 years in, of course. But yes, spreading awareness is definitely key for the EU, and how they do it is one of the biggest issues, I believe.
Continuing from what my colleague said, is I think the institutions and the EU has also to be in touch with the people in the streets, in general, in the communities, to see exactly what they're feeling and be there with them. Because I think not just in Malta, but even from experiences that I had with other institutes in my field abroad, is that the EU is like an entity in Brussels, and sometimes it's a bit disconnected from the realities that common people are experiencing. So I think the EU has to also focuses also to see how each member, the common people in each member is being affected, and what are the priorities that needs to be tackled for the EU to feel more connected.
I'll be adding to that, but I'll take maybe a different perspective. Communication is the key aspect, I think, common theme here, but also communication within the Union and Parliament. I'll mention this not because you're here, Thomas, but for example in the plenary. I believe you spoke at the end of the plenary when it came to fisheries, when most MPs had already left. There's even a lack of communication, I feel like, within the Parliament as well, let alone communication from the Parliament to the general public as well. So that's, I think, one main thing that the Union should focus on.
I think as well, continuing on all of my colleagues' words, there is the importance of showing unity at every step in terms of all of the Maltese representatives would show unity between themselves and the European Parliament. They're all representing different member states of one entity, of course, the European Union. And like Kyle just said, there's a very big importance of communication between themselves, showing that they have one voice with, for sure, different political beliefs, but they're all there for the same aim, to show that they're there for the citizens and they're there for the European Union as a whole. Aside from that, I have to completely agree with as well Michael and Isaac in saying that they have, the European Union has to also produce relatable content, which already they're doing. Even sending, for example, like content to the European Parliament and show what the life entails of an MEP. And these are things that youth find while scrolling through endless hours on social media, I'm sure, and find out, oh, okay, there's this thing, it's not so distant, it can be something I can do in the future, maybe, there's hope, kind of. And that immediately would make them a bit more interested in the field and more keen to learn and actually grow in that area as well.
Thank you for all of your suggestions on how to make youth feel more connected to the EU. Now, once they're connected with all these suggestions, in which areas do you think that it's most important to amplify youth voices, and why?
I think this is quite, at first time when I hear this question, I would say obviously all of them. But when we're going to say about specifics, I would say, for example, the youth have a voice to say in several topics, all of them. But I think that environment, for example, is a very important topic. And considering that the EU has no harmonization on the environmental action needed, youth have a lot to say about it and can amplify their voices. With regards to concerns for this generation, for future generations, there's a lot of regression occurring, obviously around the world, everyone knows about it. But it seems that there's not a wake-up call as of yet. We tend to be a reactive society. We see something, we react to it. We need to start preparing. There has to be more emergency preparedness. And I'm sure that youth can voice their voices on that matter. Additionally as well, there could be voices of the youth speaking up in terms of human rights, in terms of reproductive rights. We hear this every day. But I think that considering that, for example, in terms of reproductive rights, youth are going as well experiencing such implications and experiencing human rights issues as well, then they should as well voice their opinions and be heard on a higher level in hopes of finding some solutions or a better idea, a better solution for all.
Well, like Marianne said, everywhere really, the youths are the future of the world, this country's economy. So yes, everywhere, not to get into specifics, the environment especially, we need more harmonization all the time, and it's always increasing while time goes on. Yeah, just everywhere from my end, that's it.
I think youths, like it was said, they are the future, so I think their voices are very important, and one of the aspects very important to me are the quality of life that individuals are living. We shouldn't, for example, measure how the economy is doing, but how the quality of life of the individuals are, because it's useless to measure how much money is being used, while, for example, how I see from my connections with the people, the mental health is decreasing drastically. Also, the environment is very important, and I think youths has very important ideas in this aspect, and EU, I think, should promote a lot of investments in new technology to promote environment, new technologies, and also rebuilding and doing sustainable projects within the environment to promote environment ideas, and also to rectify further destructions to the environment, especially within small countries like in Malta.
I of course reiterate what my colleagues mentioned. I think that there already exists a lot of postgraduate opportunities, such as traineeships, such as internships with the EU as well. So there is an area in which youths can enter the EU and help in that means as well. However, I do believe that before graduating, so at a younger age as well, there exists no sort of initiative for youth to take on an ambassadorial role and maybe contribute in a policy perspective to the EU, which leaves it a bit late, I think, as well. There is an audience of people that we are missing that are able to contribute in these aspects as well. To build on this as well, I think that youths lose their voice a lot when it comes to the issues nowadays as well. the ones that come to mind, obviously migration, when it comes to defense, security, all of these topics seem to exclude youth a lot. They are discussed by people who may be a bit more obviously mature in this field as well. However, I think it's very important to take the youth perspective on this as well. Of course, the wars that are currently being fought, the issues that are being undergone in the, not only country, of course, in the Union as well, they are affecting youth, and they will affect the youth in the future as well. And hence why I think it's of utmost importance that the youth are involved from the start to the finish of these policies as well, that at the beginning of these policies they can as well pitch their own ideas. There exists a lot of student societies, a lot of organizations, a lot of these initiatives that youths come up with such amazing ideas. So youth policy makers that tend to be missing them because they cannot be step with policy makers and such. This work shouldn't be lost. This work should be taken to the next level. It should at least be heard, and that's why I think initiatives like this one are excellent in that the policymakers do sit and listen to the youth speak and discuss the topics that are of most pressing issues to them as well. There are many, and I think that there should be much more room for policymakers to sit and listen to youths who as well have their own experience, as well have their own perspective, and will be furthermore affected in the future.
As was previously said, the short answer to the question would be yes, involve youths in all areas. However, if I can touch up on a few, it would definitely, I believe, I'm an expert in. However, I see that there are many youths that are taking on this sector also and have gained quite an interest in it. And as the EU is trying to have an edge on AI, especially compared to the likes of China and the US, I believe it's something that makes it ever more important to involve youths in this area, even for the sake of the European Union and European Union members as a whole. I would also say foreign policy also, I believe it was touched upon also by Michael. I believe that when it comes to foreign policy matters, I think it's something again that's even more external than when in reality even the relations we have with others do affect certain, do affect our livelihoods and even some simple stuff, simple everyday things that use on a daily basis. So and obviously the relation with China, with the EU, but even with the world as a competitor. However, striking that balance between not cutting them off, obviously, and even not completely being reliant on them. However, I believe also, to the mentioned point, I believe that youths, it's very, very important for them to even involve themselves in exchange programs such as Erasmus+, especially, but even others, even when it comes to international conferences around the European Union, as I believe these exchanges and even understanding others, especially within Europe, is the core tenet of the European Union, and even it's what helped us overcome the challenges that we faced in World War II and even before that, with Europe being engulfed in wars one after the other. And so it's brought us from having a relationship of hate between Europe to a very close relationship and seeing ourselves as one. And even to underscore this, it was seen as being so important, these exchanges, even before World War I, when there were even programs of exchanges between Germany and France. At the time they were enemies at the political level. How effective it's been and how it long run survival obviously of the European Union.
Thank you. In a recent report, which is what Elaine referenced earlier, young people from Gozo highlighted housing and employment as the concerns organised by Europe Direct Gozo. You mentioned employment and housing, interestingly, so do you agree that these are very pressing issues, and why do you think that these were highlighted as pressing issues for Gozotan youth particularly, and youth in general?
Well, I would say that they're very pressing. Let's start locally. For example, to speak amongst youths these days, they would tell you, I don't want to stay in Malta. I just want to go abroad and find a job there. It's very rare now that I talk to someone and they tell me I want a career in Malta. And is that property has become too expensive, and there is a big concern from the age, for example, of 18. You start being concerned of how can I get the money to be afford to be able to have my own property in the future. And this also links with obviously employment. There's this concern that is good and find opportunities, of course, but the wage is not as I would want, for example, and if the wage is low, I will not be able to get the property I want. So there's that kind of link. So this is a big. I myself am concerned about being able to do more with the wage, and considering, for example, I'm in the law course, it takes you years to get the degree and to get a stable job. And in the meantime, you can keep working. However, you will not be able to get the job to get a property, which would even be a small, let's say, an apartment, for example. So that is a big concern. And we did see, for example, 2 days ago, the budget, there were initiatives that have been taken to help this housing issue. However, there needs to be policy. And this can also come from the EU. However, it has to start locally and then grow into bigger, better solutions. But I would say that there needs to be regulations and policy in order to hear youths and everyone else who's trying to find a property, because I'm sure it's not only youths, to help find a solution, because sometimes it's just a question of how and when.
I mostly agree with you. I feel like housing would be an issue, especially for youths. I don't know when I'll be able to buy my first home, probably. I'm almost 20, so it's still got a while. I don't find employment to be that much of an issue myself, personally. It could be differing opinions, but especially with the budget 2 days ago, I believe that it's been more beneficial than negative for especially youth workers, especially. So housing is definitely the issue I will press on, but employment, I'm not sure, especially when you people compare minimum wages in Malta. Okay, maybe it's lower, but then you can compare tax brackets, and Malta has one of the lowest in Europe. So it sort of depends on how you see it, but especially in terms of employment, I wouldn't find an issue. Housing definitely would be an issue that should be pressed upon, especially with regards to the youth as well.
I think housing for youths is a major concern. Even from a personal approach, a few years ago, me and my wife were trying to look for a house. But even though we both have two good jobs, me and herself, we couldn't afford a house. And we had to settle for an apartment because even the maisonettes were too high in their price. So even though me and my wife studied, worked hard, and got both of us good and stable jobs, it was difficult to have a residence that satisfies all our needs, and we had to make compromises to have a home, to start a life together. So I can feel younger generations who are starting their lives, they don't have necessary capital backing them, and they cannot start a life together because it's too hard to have a property in Malta. So the traditional way that we used to be comfortable with, for example, having a job, then buy a house, start a family, in today's reality is becoming not impossible, but very, very, very hard for the youths to go. So that's why a lot of people are seeking opportunities abroad, because I think abroad there are some opportunities where the pay can afford more the housing and the way of life that they desire and in the future for them.
So, why are people leaving Malta to seek employment abroad? Especially is the standard of living in Malta and the cost of living proportionate? I think a lot will disagree that they are. It's very difficult being a youth in Malta, even an adult in Malta. The way things are going, of course, there have been improvements, there have been ways of going in the right direction as well. However, the discrepancy with the European Union and then as a whole is far. Of course, living abroad does give you a lot of benefits. We are a member state of the European Union, so there is travel facilitation to live abroad. There are many incentives for people to move abroad. This is even without the housing issue, let alone. So, of course, it looks like a very enticing opportunity to live abroad as well. The housing issue there is in Malta does not help, of course. It's very difficult to buy a house in Malta, buy an apartment, or even rent an apartment in Malta. So all of these stacked on together do really put off the market being especially the youths who need to move out from their house to go and buy their own property. We Maltese find ourselves in the same situation that some other countries do as well, in that we have to live with our parents for a lot longer. We become a bit of a burden for our parents as well, in that into our 30s there are many people who still live with their parents because it is that unaffordable. It is a pressing issue. There's obviously more local questions as well, but there is a lot of work that needs to be done with this regard. With terms of employment, I think that there's a lot of employment. Malta boasts a lot about it, and we do have this opportunity as well. However, again, when it comes to the more niche jobs, you don't really find them in Malta, and this is an issue. However, to an extent also understandable, because obviously the EU is massive. There are many member states that have populations that are way bigger than us, so of course you understand that they will have universities that are more specialized in certain departments that do teach things that you won't learn in Malta as well. So it is a bit understandable again that the niche does get a bit left out. However, we do need to prioritize it. The niche needs to be addressed in Malta, that we do find more jobs again for these people that do work in such jobs. And again, we must stop honing people who work into a certain sector to go and work into another department, because there's a lack of the job in Malta. So again, finding the job that the people do work for, the job that they look abroad for. That's it.
I may continue with that. We have to be careful. Okay, the EU gives opportunities for the youth to go abroad and live abroad, but in the meantime, Malta is investing in these youths. For example, give them university degrees. In Malta, students doesn't pay for the degree, so Malta is investing in youths. But if that individual and youth goes abroad, that investment that Malta has done is lost. It doesn't contribute to the Maltese society, but we have to be careful, and we have to make sure that the talent that the Maltese can contribute, at least some of it remains in Malta, so we benefit from the investment that we cater. Like my colleague said, with niche investment and niche opportunities, also to take the opportunity to study what can, for example, in technology, that Malta can have an advantage from its location or from its geographically. For example, I studied a bit on my own to investigate my knowledge in, for example, hydrogen technologies. And I believe truly that Malta can have a big role in this type of technology, because it can be a bridge between Africa and Europe. And from the studies and the courses that I made, there needs to be a connection between Africa and the EU in this technology, which I believe will be the future in environmental technologies and fuel technologies. So Malta can, I believe, can take the opportunity, for example, to invest in this technology, build engineers and scientists in this technology, and be like the bridge that it needs between EU and Africa. So we have to be careful, we have to study a lot, and make sure that the investments that Malta do for youths benefits Malta eventually.
Thank you. Isaac, any final comments?
First of all, I'm not surprised by the study that Waddington youths have found that one of the major issues that they encounter is having a house, when it comes to accommodation rather. I'm sure that it's shared by Waddington youths, but it's definitely shared by Maltese youths and youths even across Europe. Even taking into consideration prison, average of 40% in Malta. So it goes to show how much of an issue it is, and even on a European level, we are considered to be we are considered to have a relatively high cost of living, and even you can consider that the average wage is around 1,200 euros. It's something that's obviously bound to happen, you know, and it's something that's going to be even more exacerbated if no concrete policy actions is taken or no changes is going to be implemented. However, I believe it's also a European issue. It's something that even when I talk to youths from different European countries, it's an issue that they even encounter in their home country, especially in major cities. So I believe that this is something that should not only be taken at a local level, but definitely at a European level. When it comes to employment, although I'm not Waddington myself, however, from many Waddington friends that I have, one of the major issues that they encounter when it comes to employment is that everything is centralized in mainland Malta. So I believe that's why it was also brought up as one of the major issues for them, definitely. Something that as Maltese youths, I think we're privileged, I guess, that many work opportunities are found right beside our doorstep, essentially. However, it's also worth noting that it's not only Waddington youths who are finding employment to be an issue. The wages in Malta, as I had said previously, are what they are, and even when you compare certain professions between Malta and even in other European countries, the wages, there's a stark difference in the wages. So when one considers that even to obtain a respectable job, one even having a bachelor's degree is not enough. You need to even go even study for a master's, ideally, maybe even a PhD. Getting paid less than 2,000 euros a month is obviously not acceptable, and that's why youths are on the lookout for jobs across Europe. Do I believe that our generation in its entirety will leave Malta in the next few years? No. However, it is very worrying to see that there's this growing trend that, yes, I'm considering leaving Malta when I graduate. It's obviously going to create quite a brain drain for our country, even when you look at Greece. It's obviously a very extreme case. However, it should get us worrying also. They're battling quite a severe brain drain, and people, especially youths, are actively leaving the country. So it's something that would be quite a shame if we had in Malta. And we hope that, I hope that, but I believe I speak for all youths, that on a policy level from our politicians, but even on a European level, it's definitely discussed.
Thank you for your very insightful comments. I will now invite the present members of the European Parliament to react and comment upon all that has been discussed today.
L-għanet, bonġu, l-kulħat, ħafna mit-temi li tkellimtu dwarhom illum dwar challenges li għandna fuq bażi lokali, l-affordabilità tal-proprjetà. Għalkemm f'Malta għandna sfida, però dawn huma issues li joħorġu wkoll f'kull stat membru. Jiġifieri aħna l-ewwel assessment li kellna wara l-elezzjonijiet tal-Parlament Ewropew fil-grupp politiku tagħna, fil-grupp tas-Soċjalisti u d-Demokratiċi. L-unika commonality fil-delegazzjonijiet kollha fil-grupp politiku kienet il-problema ta' housing affordabli, ġifieri iċ-ċittadini number one concern għal kull delegazzjoni waqt l-elezzjonijiet tal-Parlament Ewropew waqt il-kampanja kienu issues ta' affordable housing, speċjalment fiż-żgħażagħ. U allura ma kienx kombinazzjoni illi il-ġimgħa d-dieħla meta qegħdin nibdew il-proċess ta' grilling tal-Kummissjoni l-ġdida, għandna l-ewwel darba kummissarju illi huwa designated specifically for housing. Jiġifieri din hija waħda mill-ikbar sfidi li għandhom mhux biss iż-żgħażagħ, imma faxex differenti fis-soċjetà tagħna. U allura naħseb naqbad fuq dan il-punt biss, jekk irridu verament naraw illi l-Unjoni Ewropea u l-Parlament Ewropew jibqgħu istituzzjonijiet li jkunu relevanti għall-aspirazzjonijiet taż-żgħażagħ, irridu naħdmu fuq dawn il-prijoritajiet. Il-housing għalkemm l-ikbar sfida li għandna kemm għandna kummissarju hija il-finanzjament, ġifieri inutli jkollok kummissarju tal-housing jekk m'għandekx kompetenza u finanzjament. Ġifieri dik hija waħda mill-mistoqsijiet li żgur il-ġimgħa d-dieħla waqt il-grilling tal-kummissarju dan żgur tkun mistoqsija prinċipali hemmhekk. Imma mbagħad għandna challenges oħrajn, ġifieri wieħed mill-punti li ħareġ, speċjalment għalina bħala li sar stat membru fejn l-Unjoni Ewropea, kwistjoni ta' opportunitajiet. Ġifieri Malta għandek numru ta' sfidi illi huma raġuni ewlenija minħabba l-limitazzjonijiet ġeografiċi tagħna. Ġifieri jekk immorru fejn jidħlu speċjalizzazzjonijiet għalkemm l-Università ta' Malta u anke l-emkas tagħmlu avvanzi kbar sabiex ikomplu joffru aktar u aktar opportunitajiet, però ċertu limitazzjonijiet. Diħat kienet waħda mill-prioritajiet ukoll ewlenin fejn dan il-grupp tas-soċjalisti speċjalment fil-Kumitat tax-Xogħol u l-Affarijiet Soċjali u ħadkun waħda mill-mistoqsijiet ewlenin ukoll waqt is-smieħ li ser ukoll Kummissarju Malti, Glenn Mcallef li huwa responsabbli miż-żgħażagħ illi fl-aħħar mill-aħħar proġetti li joffru daw it-tip ta' opportunitajiet. Jiena tajjeb li jkollna influencers li jiġu fil-Parlament Ewropew jikkomunikaw, tajjeb ukoll li jkollna MEPs illi jkunu influencers ukoll m'għandi l-ebda problema dan il-fatt. Ġeneralment ikollhom ħafna aktar ħin minnha biex jużaw is-social media ġaħna ikollna numru ta' impenni oħrajn speċjalment delegazzjonijiet żallintu l-laqgħu għaxma kemm il-kumitat differenti fil-ġimgħat f'3 ijiem li nkunu fil-Parlament Ewropew, il-Parlament Ewropew kien attiv kull ġimgħa. Però naħseb li huwa importanti wkoll li dawn iċ-challenges li għandna, iċ-challenges reali fejn jidħlu l-opportunitajiet ta' kif iż-żgħażagħ iħarsu lejn l-Unjoni Ewropea bħala opportunità. Li hemm xi ħaġa li inti tkellimt ukoll fuq il-komunikazzjoni. Kif ħatilħaq iż-żgħażagħ b'xi ħaġa li b'mod tanġibbli il-proġett Ewropew qed iħalli impatt pożittiv fuq ħajjithom billi noqogħdu nitkellmu fuq suġġetti li totalment ma jaffettwawx il-ħajja taż-żgħażagħ jew billi il-Parlament Ewropew u l-istituzzjonijiet Ewropej imissu prijoritajiet li fl-aħħar mill-aħħar bħal housing affordabbli bħal opportunitajiet ta' taħriġ bħal solidarity course li huma importanti ħafna speċjalment fejn jidħol volontarjat xi ħaġa li da tonqos ħafna fis-soċjetajiet tagħna u hija challenge ukoll għalina bħala pajjiż. U allura hemmhekk għandna nibqgħu ninvestu, ġifieri l-Ewropa speċjalment fejn jidħol is-soċjal u hija priorità illi għandna naraw li f'din il-klima ekonomika u soċjali li qegħdin ngħixu fiha, ġifieri forsi aħna nieħdu ċertu affarijiet fuq il-granti. Jumejn ilu ġie ppreżentat il-budget u kellek sitwazzjoni fejn ma ġewx imposti ta' xi ġodda, fejn kellek l-income tax li naqset għal livell li huwa storiku għal pajjiżna, però dawn mhix xi ħaġa li kull stat membru qiegħed jesperjenza. Ġifieri uħud mill-ikbar diskussjonijiet li jkollna huma biżijiet ġodda illi żgħażagħ idħolhom jerfgħu u kif għandna din ħeġġa ta' żgħażagħ illi jridu jiksbu opportunitajiet differenti fi stati membri oħra. Hija xi ħaġa tajba li inti toħroġ mill-qoxra u tintegra f'stati membri oħrajn f'pajjiżi oħrajn biex tikber iktar akademikament fl-esperjenza. Huma xi ħaġa tajba, imma il-problema ta' żgħażagħ li qegħdin jitilqu minn Spanja jitilqu mill-Italja, jitilqu mill-Portugal, u jippruvaw isibu esperjenzi għaliex il-pagi għadhom f'livell li l-opportunitajiet u l-rata ta' għata għadha splodut ta' dawn il-pajjiżi. Għandek sitwazzjoni narawha kuljum ta' Taljani li għandhom opportunitajiet kummerċjali kbar għaliex is-suq huwa fermi kbar li dawn qegħdin jażlu lill-gżira żgħira ftit il-bogħod minnhom sabiex jiftħu n-negozju tagħhom għaliex għandna fl-aħħar mill-aħħar sistema li hija ħafna aktar attrajenti għall-startups pajjiżna. Ġifieri dawn huma kollha affarijiet, challenges li forsi aħna ħafna drabi naraw li huma challenges lokali, ma dawn huma challenges Ewropej f'kull stat membru. U għalhekk l-Ewropa trid tara nemmen din il-leġislatura li tindirizza dawn il-punti u tara li biex tiffinanzja proġetti militari mod speċjali ma tnaqqas dawn